Welcome to episode number 6 of the Chosen Life podcast. I am your host, the Chosen Lawyer. We are sporting merch today because that's how we roll. So I'm very proud to present a very good friend of mine. You'll see a constant theme as you're watching the Chosen Life podcast. Good people, stylish, living the chosen life. And my friend here is no exception. Boxing, great trainer and all-around good guy, Mr. Nick Fantauzzi. Nick, welcome to the Chosen Life.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate having me on and the nice words.
1,000%. Listen, it's all authentic and it's all true, man. And I love the shirt, by the way. Please show the fans there.
Thank you.
Is that part of the new merch line?
Yeah. I've had it out for a little while now. It's available on my. I work with a company called Millions now, so millions.co. They have a lot of athletes, a lot of up and coming athletes and stuff. They're pretty much a merchandise and kind of get their athletes out there. So they've been doing a great job. I'm happy to be partners with them.
Amazing. We're changing spots. We're now calling this In Bed with Nick Fantauzzi. We're just figuring out our technical stuff, so we're back. But we can see the shirt, Nick, and you're looking awesome. You set the bar very, very high because I know you always got a fresh haircut. The beard's always looking good. So if I'm going to be meeting up with Nick, I got to look just as good.
You always do, man.
Well, I appreciate that. Now, we were having debate because, your last name troubles a lot of your friends and your colleagues because, when we go around, we're like, can't wait to see Nick Fantauzzi, like an Uzi, so it sounds like badass, because you're a boxer. And then, I found out, hey, I've known this guy for all this time. And it's actually Nick Fantauzzi. Tell us about it.
So you know what? It's not your fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's probably the Fantauzzi or Fantauzzi side because I have cousins that say Fantauzzi. I have other family members say Fantauzzi. We're all over the place. So either or is acceptable. That's why I don't even correct people. It's just like whatever you want, Fantauzzi, whatever you want.
So they're equal. So if you're going down to the ring and the announcer's got to announce your name, how's he saying it?
I would say Fantauzzi.
It is Fantauzzi. Okay, so for all the millions and millions of fans sitting and watching this worldwide, it is Nick Fantauzzi. And Nick was plugging his merch. And I got to tell you, Nick, that you were always a great inspiration for me on many levels. As far as your training, as far as your work ethic, you're just general all-around good guy, and also as far as merchandising, because that's how people know you from the shirts, and from the hoodies, and your fans love wearing them. So people walking down the street and they're like, "Hey, I know Nick," and it's amazing how community builds through merch, right?
Yeah, 100%. I hear it all the time. I've got really lucky. I've got a lot of support through people throughout the years, and I've heard stories. Oh, I was walking down the street in Toronto and someone walked by with your shirt or your hoodie. I've heard in Mexico before, someone in Mexico, a Mexican, had my shirt on in Mexico. I don't know how that happened. I don't even know if I believe it, but I've heard that happen. So it's kind of humbling, but it's nice to hear.
Buddy, anything's possible. And on that note, we're going to jump into our format of the Chosen Life. So we go through three different topics, stuff that we both enjoy, stuff that the listeners would love, relate to. And when we jump into number one now, very key, we're going to talk about Nick. It's understanding Nick and how Nick came to be the 10-0 boxer and the road he's on. So Nick, the first and foremost, if I met you on the street, the last thing I would guess is boxer, not because you're not built for it, not because you're not badass in the ring, but you're just such a nice guy. You're so down to earth. You'll do anything for anybody, no attitude whatsoever. How is this gentle soul a vicious fighter in the ring? Tell us about it.
To be honest, I heard that all the time. Like even when I was an amateur, and then I tell even my biggest supporters, my friends, that I'm going to be a pro boxer. They'll all say the usual. You're not like that. You're a nice guy. You have to be born in the streets to be a boxer. You have to be broke and desperate. That's all like misconceptions. What I kind of tell people is this. I have lots of other things I can do for a living. I chose to do boxing. I chose to put my body through all this, the training, the sacrifices. I chose to do it. So what I like to tell people is like, do you think that makes me less or more dangerous as a fighter? Because like I'm choosing to do it not because I have to. So I'm not doing things just for money. I'm doing things for love money, and for the sport. So to me, it's nothing like vicious about it. It's more I'm just a competitive person. No matter what it is, I always want to win. I always want to compete. I always want to try my best. So that's what it is to me. It's not necessarily a fight. It's more just a competition.
So that being said, Nick, I mean, you came into this world, you know, little kid growing up, teenager, then young adult. Where was it born, Nick? Where did it come from, as far as from the moment you're born to the time you first got into a ring and sparred or hit your first bag? Tell us, like, where did it all start for you?
So my whole thing was being an athlete. I've started. My parents, I didn't have a hard life whatsoever. I had a pretty easy childhood. I grew up lucky. I was lucky enough to play any sport I want. I played everything. I started off swimming, skating lessons, eventually hockey, baseball, football, soccer, volleyball, anything you could imagine, I played. So that competitiveness is always in me. I have an older sibling. I grew up with four kids in my house. So having four kids in the house, my parents would put me on the teams with my older brother. So I'd always be underage playing with the older kids. That kind of made me try harder because to get any kind of playing time, you have to be good. And they, at first they'd stick me in the outfield, and then when I go up to bat, everyone would move all in and all this little punk. I was big for my age, but I was tiny compared to those people 2 years older than me. So I hit it over the head, over their heads. You know what I mean? So it caused me to excel as an athlete, and that's why I'm not saying I'm the best at every sport. I'm not saying that at all, but I've always excelled at sports, no matter what the sport was. So I ended up watching a Rocky movie, and I was watching Rocky, and all of a sudden my little brother had a punching bag in his basement. So in our basement. So I went downstairs. Nobody used it, and I just started hitting it. And all of a sudden, it's like, wow, I could hit. And then I started teaching myself, and then I started watching real boxing, and that's when I decided I got to go to a boxing gym. And there's nothing around, but eventually I made my way to a boxing gym, and then that's it from there.
What age would you say you were, and what Rocky movie was it?
So it was all the Rocky movies, just watching, every one of them. I started watching one, okay, then I kept watching them all, and then I was, when I first started watching them, I was probably whatever it was, 12 or something. But when I was 15, that's when it kind of, I just happened to have a punching bag that my little brother got for Christmas. Nobody used it, so I was 15 when I hit my first bag, so
Okay.
pretty late. But
Yeah.
I was 15. I trained myself. I was a kid that grew up in Vaughan. My, I wanted to find a gym. The only gyms available at the time were in Toronto.
Right.
My parents wouldn't let me. Well, my mom wouldn't let me go to the gym in Toronto because school, school, school. You're not going on a bus to Toronto every day to box. If it was something else, I bet you she would have said yes. But boxing, no.
And how did the rest of your family take it as you started hitting the bag, as you started getting a little more serious about it? How was the rest of the family feeling about it?
The same thing. Everyone's concerned about, boxing is a violent sport, but at the same time, my dad, my brothers love combat sports. My sister's a badass, so she didn't mind it either. So they all really enjoy my career, and they like pushing me, and they've done so much for me as a supportive standpoint.
It's funny, Nick. You and I, we hit it off right away. When we first met, I think it was back in 2018, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. So it's a few years back now. And I didn't realize how much we had in common because I got my love of boxing from Rocky as well. I watched Rocky 3, and I saw Mr. T as Clubber Lang, and I said to myself, and I was like, I don't know, 7 or whatever I was, and I said, this is what I want to be when I grow up. So I got a giant Mr. T
Nice.
poster on my wall. And when I was like
Yeah.
in grade 3, grade 4, and they said, what do you want to be when you grew up? I'm this 7-year-old, 9-year-old Jewish boy in a Jewish school, private school. I said, I want to be Mr. T when I grow up. And everybody laughed at me.
That,
But you know what? I
that's
still want to be
funny.
Mr. T, because like Mr. T embodies everything. He's strong, he's badass, but you know what? He's got a soul. He's a good guy. That's the image he projects.
Yeah.
And you know what, Nick, that's the same image you project. You're a modern day Mr.
Thanks,
T in my
man.
mind.
Oh, nice. If it means anything, I remember when I first met you, and this isn't an insult, but I thought you're absolutely nuts. You were working out drenched in sweat, working your ass off. Like every time I've seen you in the gym, you're working your ass off. You're going hard. You didn't really know me. You walked up close to me. You looked at me dead in the eye and said, "That's how you work." And you might have said another choice word in between, but I'm not going to go into that. But that's what you said. And it was great to see because you had this passion, and that was awesome to see, especially in the gym, because, that's where people that, when people talk about working out and stuff, and then they go to the gym and they get humbled. You push yourself every time, and I really appreciate seeing that in the gym.
Well, that's a really nice thing to say. It's funny because I was gonna mention, do you remember when we first met and what you said to me? And I didn't know if you'd remember it or not, but I remember you telling me that a little while after. And it's funny, you can relate to this, right? It's like, it's one thing when you and I are talking here, we meet on the street, but when I'm working out, there's times I come across as a real ass because, and I don't mean to be, it's just because I'm lost in that moment. I'm trying to survive. Like, this is hard. It doesn't come natural to me, and I need to put everything into it. And I'm not thinking about anybody else around me, and I'm not thinking about being a real nice at that point. I just want to survive at this moment, and then I'll turn on my nice guy persona. So I don't know. Do you find, like, when you're like training for a big fight, do you find there's a different Nick out there? Like, we meet you in different settings, that there'll be a different persona.
Well, the thing with me is at the gym, if I'm doing my hand wraps, if I'm wrapping up, if I'm just starting to get warmed up, I'll talk a tiny bit. Once the work starts, I don't care about anything else. Like, a lot of people see the stuff I do on social media and they say to me, "Oh, you're into social media so much. You spend so much time on it." It's not the case. Like, you never see me in the gym. It's kind of one thing that I wish I did more of, but I don't even take out my phone when I'm training.
Yeah.
My phone's in my bag. I'm not worried about it. I'm immersed in my training. It's like, that's my work time. That's, you know, I'm all in. The post I get maybe at the end of training, "Hey, take a picture of us. Oh, we just trained. Okay, cool." I won't. I don't like taking a lot of film during the time unless people do it for me without me asking. Like, when I'm in training, I'm focused on the task at hand.
That's amazing, and I've noticed that with, like, when I was a young kid, I used to go get a lot of autographs from pro athletes. I was a big baseball fan, hockey guy, and I always noticed, for example, in baseball, when you got a starting pitcher, when it's a day that he's pitching or the day before, generally, they don't sign autographs. They don't want to talk to you. They're lost in that one moment. They got that 1 or 2 days every rotation where they got to be focused on the lineup and what their game plan is. You meet them after the game, you meet them the next day, and they're not pitching again for 5 days, back to being the nicest person in the world. But when you meet them on that day, they're like, "I'm sorry." Either they don't talk to you at all, or they're like, I'm not in that moment right now. Sorry, I can't be talking to people. I gotta focus on my task at hand." So I've always respected that, and that's kind of, I never intended to be like that. It just comes out naturally. I think you don't really choose how you're gonna feel your emotions. But when you show up at a gym, for example, and you didn't have a great sleep, maybe you didn't eat well, your stomach doesn't feel right, and you're just grinding it out, like you got nothing in the tank that day, but you just got to find a way. You know,
Yeah.
you got to literally put 100% into it, right? Like, there's no other choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's to each his own, right? Because we're like that. Then you have some people that go to the gym not for a training, like, not just for training. They come for a social aspect. So some people go to the gym and all they do is talk.
Yeah.
And you know what? For them, that's great. Just I don't want to be a part of that. You could say something, "Hey, how's it going?" That's cool. But when I'm at the gym, I don't want to talk. I like going to even when I would go to the gym to do my own strength training before and stuff. I put my headphones on. It's like I'm not even there. I don't like that whole "let's talk and be buddy buddy." Do that outside of the gym.
There's a time and place for everything. Exactly. So let's walk back. 15-year-old Nick's punching the bag. He's excited. Walk us through, Nick. From there, when was the first fight? When did you go and have your first match fight? How old were you, and what was the process of setting that up?
So my first fight was in 2007. So I was pretty old for a first fight. I was 2007, so 15 years ago. I was 20 years old.
Okay. So
you know,
5 years.
it's
So 5 years you're working
start,
into the
but
first
it
fight.
is what it is.
Okay. So 5 years you're training for it.
Yeah. So I didn't step into. Yeah. So I didn't step into an actual boxing gym until 2006, late 2006. Like, so I had 6 months of training before I actually had my first amateur fight, like actual training. So that was actually funny because I remember going to the gym and I told these guys, yeah, I'm going to be a professional boxer. I want to fight. I'm going to be a pro because I've done my training for years. I knew I had a lot of work. I wasn't one of those kids that walk in and think they're the best fighter in the world. I knew I had a lot of work to do. All the work had to be done, but I went in there saying what I wanted to do because I knew in my heart that's what I wanted. And the guy looks at me that signed me up, the owner of the gym actually, and he looks at me, he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Didn't even really look at me in the eye. Yeah, yeah, here you go, here you go. And I remember I wrapped up and I started hitting the bag. The guy ran across, holy shit, and he started saying stuff, right? Because he hasn't seen anybody at the gym that hit like that, and I wasn't even trained. So from there, right then it was boom, 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 right? Train, train, train. I trained, I think, after 6 months. I had my first fight. It was a great event. It was in front of 500 people. I still remember it. It was awesome.
Like it was yesterday, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember seeing you at the ACC, and you were the opening fight for a big card that day.
Yep.
And you know,
Yep.
the way you walked down to the ring, and you just took care of business. And Nick, I don't know how many times you stepped into an arena that size, but you walked out there like it was the most natural thing in the world. You've done this a million times. You came in, and you know, it's one of those things when you left the ring, looks like not doesn't even look like anybody touched you. You came out the way you came in, just did your business, and boom. You know, how did it feel to fight in an arena that size?
So that to me was amazing. So the biggest thing about that experience was, I've been putting my life into this since I was, like I said, 19, 20 years old, and earlier if you want to count that little training I did on my own. But I had, as you might know a little bit about this, I've had tons of injuries over the years. I literally work so hard at everything I do that my body would not handle it. I'd go to work. I'd wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd go to work. I'd go sleep in my car for 20 minutes before I go into training after a long day of work outside. I'll go training. I'll train people if I can. I go home not thinking that's enough, and I'll go to the other gym, do my strength and conditioning training. I overworked my body. I got like 4 hours of sleep a night, and I always got injured. I had injury after injury. Every fight I had, I went into the fight injured. I still won. I always would win, even though I have all these obstacles that I'd have, and at one point it was just like, why isn't this working? And people would say to me, oh Nick, maybe your body's just not meant for this and that. It's not that. It's that I just kept working too hard and not smart. And long story short, to answer your question, when I was pro, I'd hear people, okay, but when are you gonna go pro? And I'm like, I am pro. I'm, at that time I'm 4-0 as a pro. Right. Yeah, but when you can be like a real pro when you're on TV? Because like to the general public, they don't understand that there's professional boxing everywhere. You can go to Mexico, right, like Canelo did when he was 15, and he's fighting in a little junkyard, but it's a pro fight because it's sanctioned. So people just assume that professional is only what you see on TV with Mayweather and this and that.
Right.
So when I got the call to fight at the ACC, it was 4 weeks after my fourth fight, and that's a very short turnaround. It's like old school stuff.
That's very
fast. Relished at the fact I actually asked for it. Yeah, I asked for it. Like when I found out they moved the event from Quebec to Ontario, I said to Lee Back, my promoter, put me on the show. He goes, the show's already full, but I'm going to do my best. I get a call within a day. Nick, you want to fight? Boom, done. So amazing. I got on the call for ACC. So that really opened people's eyes. They see, me on the big screen. They see Lee Baxter Promotions, Floyd Mayweather, Mayweather Promotions. I'm on the show with Mayweather Promotions. Right. All of a sudden, I sold over $20,000 worth of tickets myself, and I only had like 2 weeks to sell tickets. And I sold over $20,000 myself. Yep. Yeah, yes, sir.
I was sitting in the Nick seats that night. It was amazing.
Yeah, thanks, man. And
so,
then, and people all of a sudden.
I was going to say, and for the people listening, it's now called the Scotiabank Arena, where the Toronto Maple Leafs, Toronto Raptors play. So this is a big facility. This is no joke. Like, this is the big time. So yeah, it was quite a night.
Yeah, it was awesome. And that what you said kind of, you noticed that because you've done all this stuff your whole life. And right when I was done the fight, it's like, I jumped on the ropes, like I was very happy, right? And I got the stoppage, and right then I'm saying, like, in my, not that I'm doing this for anybody else, but at that moment, I pound my chest and I'm like, I'm here. No more of this. Oh, Nick, you can't do this. Nick, you won't do this. Oh, when are you going pro? It's like, now, what are you gonna say? I'm here and I'm winning and I'm doing it.
Today, I always have a theme for the chosen life, and when we have each episode, and sometimes it crafts itself as we come together, and I'm looking ahead, and we already brought up Canelo. We're going to talk about him in a moment, but really, for me, sports, boxing, it's mental. It's not the physical part of it. Anybody can go punch a bag. Anybody can go and learn everything. It's that mental side. I find the person that with the less talent but strong mentally is the one who's going to win it out. The person who can grind it out, the person who, puts everything else aside and can just go and do it, right?
Yeah.
And for you, you put a lot of time in the gym. I mean, Nick, you're always looking jacked. You're always looking amazing. You're always looking, ring ready out there every time I see you. How do you do it mentally? How do you get yourself up, knowing you're going to have a scheduled fight? Learning the other guy, but how do you prepare yourself mentally for something that breaks so many people?
So what I like to say to people is, do all of the work you can in training. Have no excuses. There's guys over the years, and I've seen people in and out of the gym and this and that. What I find the difference is between having a strong mentality and a weak mentality. There are some fighters that they don't want to put in the work and they don't want to do certain things. For example, there's a good sparring partner that wants sparring, and this is a really good sparring partner, and people, oh, I'm not going to go spar. Oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, it's going to be too tough. If you lose those little mental battles throughout training camp, you go into the fight not knowing if you're prepared or not. It's kind of at a fault for me sometimes that I'm too anti that. Like, I'll go into sparring knowing I shouldn't be going that day because I really don't feel good, for whatever way. Say I had no sleep and I'm this or that, or something happened where I don't feel good, or I'm just coming off an illness, and oh, this guy's training for a fight. He's ready to go. He's prime sparring. Instead of saying, oh, I'm going to not go today, I'm going to get over that mental battle. I'm going to go in. I'm going to spar. I'm going to do the work. Those days that I feel a little bit tired, you have to listen to your body, which I'm learning to do more and more. But if it's not something that's going to harm you, as in if you have um, a hurt bicep and you can't throw a punch, but you go into spar just to do it, that's stupid. But if you're just a little bit tired, or if you don't think you're in good enough shape to do something like a lot of people do, you're going into those battles and you're already losing them if you say no. You're already one step down in the fight. And then when you go to fight, all of a sudden it's like, oh, is my cardio there? Oh, this, you're going to doubt yourself. I don't leave any stone unturned when I'm training. So when I go into a fight, that's out of the book. I don't question if I could last. I don't question if, I question if that guy could last with me because I put in all the work.
I love it. I love it. So like you said, if you're second guessing yourself, you're already done at that point, and all you can, and you're just the best you that you can be. So I'm gonna jump into topic number two, being now that we know Nick's history, we know what Nick's about mentally. We want to talk about what would be Nick's dream opponent. What is Nick's dream fight? And before we start throwing out names, Nick, something I found very interesting. So you and I have had a lot of conversations, and the boxing community is very tight, right? Especially here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and in neighboring Quebec. And I've thrown you before a couple names where I said, listen, I've seen these guys fight, and you look like you'd be perfectly matched up. And you're like, nah, man, that's my friend, that's my sparring partner, blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, Nick, so let's get in the ring and let's do it on. If you guys would be perfectly suited, why will you not go fight the sparring partners? Not to put you on the spot.
No, you could ask me anything you want. So a couple of names that you always mention are Steve Rolls and Patrice Volney. So right. Those are two guys that you've mentioned, and those are both two of my friends, right? Mm-hmm. I've sparred Steve countless times. We're at different weight classes. Not only that, he's a little bit ahead of me in career. Like, he's quite a bit ahead. He's headlining Madison Square Garden for a second time coming up in March.
Yeah.
March 19th.
Get your tickets
And
now, folks.
Patrice Volney, you know, they're both middle. Sorry.
I said, get your tickets now, folks.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But and Patrice Volney, they're both at 160, so that's a fight that wouldn't even be, wouldn't even happen because of weight classes. But you know, me and those guys, we go back. So when it comes to 175, that's my division right now. I might even go to 168 because 175, I don't even cut weight to make it. So those are my divisions I want to stick to, and I'm open for anybody in those divisions.
Well, Volney I bring up because I have seen him fight live. He has a similar. When you're the crowd and you're not the one going into fight, right? You're watching just the people walking down to the ring, and some of them, I swear, you could see the fear in their eyes. Some of them they come in overly cocky, and some of them just come in confident. Volney comes in my opinion, very similar to you, just very confident, comes in, does his business, and goes home. And that's why I thought, all else being equal, that'd be a fight I would love to see because you guys approach it the same way. Hardworking, both cut, and both look very natural in there.
Yeah, no, he's a great fighter and a great person. He's one of the nicest guys in boxing. But I'm actually glad we're not in the same weight class because I wouldn't want to fight him. We're friends, and he's 2 weight classes below me right now anyway. So that's the answer to that question.
People have a way of moving around weight classes in boxing, and when there's a will, there's a way. So we're not going to put you on the spot and say, if all else being equal, if you were to get in the ring, who's going to be winning that one? But I will say, I did meet Patrice. I was at a diner for breakfast out of the blue, not that day or anything, and we just bumped into each other. And I said, "Hey, you're Patrice, man. Nice to meet you. Lots of respect." The guy took all the time in the world for me. He was really cool about it. Didn't know who the hell I was. You know what? He was with some people. He stopped. We talked, and real cool guy. So I can see why you guys would be friends. Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, he's one of the nicest guys in boxing.
But right now it's the Nick show, and we're going to talk about Nick. So Nick, I'm your genie. I can grant you your wish. Anybody you want. We'll figure out the weight class part of it, but I can give you Tyson Fury. I can give you Canelo. I can give you Triple G. Joshua. You could have anybody out there, and you can take whatever you want. 6 months, 9 months to have your camp. Who do you want and why?
So this is obviously current fighters, right?
I can't bring back people from the dead, unfortunately. I wish I could, but no, we're not going to do that. Listen, hey, you want Mike Tyson? I'll give you Mike Tyson. He's still going, right? Maybe Lennox Lewis will strap it on, but you want Evander Holyfield? Who would you like?
At this point,
yes,
and you're going to know my reasons when I say it,
yes,
it would be Canelo because that's the money fight. That's where you're getting paid. And if if you want that big check, that's where you're going to go.
Well, Canelo is right now at the top of the world, right? And it's funny because he had his fights with Triple G, and there's been a lot of debate, and I've watched all of them, and there's arguments whether he won or didn't win, But bottom line, look at where his career went. Look where Triple G's went, and his last couple fights, he's looked amazing out there. He could take you anytime he wants, right? He has so much power. He's so smart out there. So we'll give you Canelo, no problem. We're gonna start you off light, maybe 3-4 mil for a purse on that one, and maybe we'll give you 5% of the pay-per-views. So you're gonna headline with Canelo. It's done.
Yeah.
What's your game plan? You're not going out there to have fun. I want you to beat Canelo. How do you beat Canelo? How would Nick do it?
So to beat Canelo, I would say lots of movement and keeping your range, keeping your distance. I'm not going to talk too bad about him because he's doing great and he's great, but I notice he reaches a lot and he gets uncomfortable and he reaches and he puts his neck back. So me being 6'3", I'm going to keep him at a distance all the time, and I'm not going to run. I'm just going to use angles a lot. And he's gotten way better than the kid that fought Mayweather because he was a kid when he fought Mayweather.
Yes.
He's gotten way better, but there's holes in his game. But I just find people fight his fight, and whether that's if he's made them do that or not, people just kind of let's just try to see who's more macho, and you're playing into his game, right?
I find that whatever people have a game plan, when you're actually in the moment, right, it can get thrown out the window. And it seems like people just they
Yeah.
want to come and they have this thing. I want to knock him out. I want to out punch him. I want to
Yeah.
outpower him. And then they stay close, and that's when they get in trouble. And you're playing right into his trap because you look at the guy and you're like, he's not that intimidating. He's a pretty boy. He's not that big. I'm bigger than him. I'm more muscular than him. I can take him. And they just fall right into his trap, and he gets you when he's ready. And there's a reason I think why Mayweather did not want to fight him later on in life, because I think Canelo was just too dangerous. But that being said, if Mayweather went in with him, he would still play the Mayweather fight. It'd be a chess match. He would just exhaust him and just dance around the ring all day long until Canelo tired out and got frustrated, right? And then Mayweather may get one or two shots in there. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how you're gonna beat him. Being smart, right? Like he's really developed over the years, and he's become a smart fighter as well. But if you're just playing the macho game with him, that's kind of what he wants to do. He's Mexican. That's what those guys do. They just come forward and they just wanna grind it out.
And I think that's in every sport. If I love wrestling. We're going to talk about wrestling in a moment, but Mexican wrestling is a lot different than North American wrestling. It's more intense, more high flying. They put a lot of time into it. Certain countries like Cuba, the athletes really put the time and they put the training in and the practice time. And for them, we're lazy. We don't put in the time that they do, and that's why they tend to be a lot better than a lot of North American athletes, except for the ones that are really training hard. So I could definitely see that. That being said, you dream a dream, anything can happen. So you never know when that phone is going to ring, right? And in your world, how does one get that Canelo fight? How do you get that Joshua fight? When you have always, these names versus names, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, I need a warm-up fight. I need somebody, no different than, when Apollo Creed took on Rocky Balboa, because he was the heavyweight champion of the world and he just needed like a sparring partner and some fun. But Rocky showed him a lot. So how does one go about being that Rocky in real life and fight the Apollo Creed? How do you get those phone calls?
Just like determination, hard work, and doing things right. You just gotta, especially these days, it's all about the numbers. If you keep a good record and you work hard and you fight, you're gonna get opportunities. There's no such thing as a 40-0 fighter or 30-0 fighter that's not getting opportunities. Like, as long as you keep winning, you're gonna have opportunities. Even if you have a couple of losses, it's not the end of the world. But as long as you maintain a really good record, and you'll have opportunities. Things will happen. You might even have to take less money than you deserve against the bigger opponents just to show what you can do. And that's just the name of the game. You just got to stay prepared. You got to stay in the gym. You got to stay ready, stay professional. That way, if you do get that call, it's not, okay, I need to get in shape to have this fight. It's, okay, I'm going to focus on a game plan for my fight and worry about that. Don't worry about the whole, I'm just like, your training camp's not to lose weight. Your training camp is to prepare for the fight.
And sometimes you're preparing for a fight that yet doesn't exist, like you said. You brought up Madison Square Garden. I missed Steve Rolls by 1 week. I actually went down and I saw Joshua Ruiz won. Okay. And to me, that's a classic example where Joshua was supposed to fight Big Baby Miller. Big Baby Miller was following the Clubber Lang, playbook, where he was bad-mouthing him and showing up at his fight and trash-talking him and goading him into a fight. He got that fight. He was on his home turf of Madison Square Garden. Circumstances didn't allow him to fight, obviously. And then the phone calls go out. We got a major headlining event. We got Joshua's first North American fight. We need a fighter out there. And who shows up? The Andy Ruiz, who happens to be Mexican. And he says, hey, I'm ready to go. No problem. And I remember watching the prep and everything going into that fight. And what boggled my mind was in the weigh-in that Joshua hands him the belts and let him wear the belts. And this was like, like a meet and greet, like you're meeting your idol, and they were shaking hands. And I'm like, this is not right to me. Like, they should hate each other. There should be a little more intensity here. And Ruiz, I think, played along with it, made him feel good. Like, hey, I'm just lucky to be here. And you know what? He showed up and he won. He came in with way more intensity. I remember Ruiz got knocked down first, got right back up, laughed, knocked Joshua down, and then the horror began. You know, when you're watching that fight, could you picture yourself in Ruiz's position at that point?
Oh, for sure. And just being that guy that like I said, I haven't been hard done by in any means in life, but sorry, I've had my fallbacks, but my injuries, but I was always that guy that even though, like I said, I haven't had it hard, a lot of people would say, "Oh, Nick, oh yeah, Nick's not going to do that. Oh, Nick's not going to go pro. Oh, Nick's not going to do this." And to me, it's like I actually like it a little in a way because it just fuels the fire even more. Like I'm already the most competitive person, and then I hear that kind of stuff, it just adds to it. And then you see a situation like that with Ruiz, it's like anything is possible, especially in boxing. One punch or a few punches can change everything. Yeah.
And he's not gone yet. I mean, he won his last fight, and he's always been talked about. If one matchup or another doesn't work out, he may get in there. And I remember watching Steve Rolls against Triple G. Rolls got a really good punch on him. I think in the second or third round there. Ended up not finishing the fight, and Triple G won. But you know what? He didn't back down. He was training hard. There was good footage of him. It seemed like he was really ready to go. And he's back out there at Madison Square Garden. And you said, like, you guys are sparring together. You guys know each other really well. And in my mind, always having spent time with you, Nick, it's like when you see them, I can see it. And then I start picturing, when I was at MSG, I pictured you there. I remember seeing you at Scotiabank Arena. And I'm like, I can see Nick here so easily, and he'll fit in perfectly. It's just, you got the talent, you got the drive, and it's like, you just need some luck, you need some opportunity, you need that one phone call. And when you do get it, man, know that people will be behind you, man. They're very excited for you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
So that being said, Nick, if I'm going to be your friend here, and I'm going to, say, what, I want to see this guy do his best, then I got to tell you, man, it's just as much about the sizzle as it's about the steak. So we're going to go right into topic number 3. My favorite, the real reason why I wanted to go into boxing, not so I can fight, so I can walk down the ring to my favorite tune. So we're going to talk about wrestling now, professional wrestling, because they're the ones, the originators really of the entrance theme songs. And we're going to talk about the best wrestling, ultimate wrestling theme songs of all time.
Okay, fair enough.
So before we get into wrestling, Nick, your last couple of fights, you got to walk down to the ring. You got I know you don't wear the full robe, right? You wear the ones you can still see the jacked arms, right? You got the hoodie on. Yeah. What tune are you walking down to the ring, and why?
So with me, it's always been whatever I feel in that moment. Sometimes I'm driving, and as I'm driving, songs come on, and sometimes it happened to me a bunch of times, and even now when I hear a song I use for my, like in the past, I get like those I don't know what you call it, like butterflies in your head. Like I feel it gives me this feeling like that's the one, right? And sometimes I hear a song and then I picture it, or words in the song explain a situation I'm going through at the time, and I just get like those butterflies, and then I'm like, that's the one. That's how I choose my songs.
What was the last song or two that you picked? Do you recall of what you walked down to the ring in? Which theme songs?
The last song I came down to was Even Flow by Pearl Jam. I'm almost certain it was Even Flow.
Even Flow.
Yeah.
I remember, man.
Yeah.
There was one, I think it was at Scotiabank Arena, like 5 guys came down to G-Eazy. Like that was the big song at the time.
Yeah.
So everybody's going to come down to the same song. And I have found, watching enough boxing in my life, it's not that much different than professional wrestling in that sense, because it's all about the show and the build-up and the hype and the weigh-in and all this. And then you're wearing the flashy robe and you got the music and you got the lights. And I love that stuff, And so even like, the start of the Chosen Life podcast, it's me pumping up to the Ric Flair Space Odyssey song, and that pumps me up, And when you and I talked about it, and I always told you, like, I would be using Ric Flair, I'd use Mr. Perfect. I'll save my favorite one for a second. You always said your favorite wrestler was?
The Ultimate Warrior.
Okay. So we got the Ultimate Warrior. Now, he was as intense as they get. He had, the face paint, he had the hair, and he would come, that theme song and he come running down to the ring. So I always said to you, Nick, you don't have to come sprinting down to the ring like the Warrior. But why did you never use the Warrior theme song yourself?
I want to. I really want. That's something I really want to do. It's still a possibility because that song is amazing.
Nick, I'm gonna tell you, man. You come down to the ring. Okay, maybe you get your a couple trainers or somebody wearing the face paint themselves. But when people hear that, that crowd is gonna get seriously pumped.
I agree. That's the song. Like, I know lots of wrestling themes in the past have pumped people up, but that song, when it comes on, the place just goes electric, man.
See, now, if I'm going down to the ring, and the way I always pictured myself, I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to turn the lights down real low. I'm going to have very small lights going, and I would play the Undertaker theme song. And I would have everybody carrying an urn, like Paul Bearer, and do the slow march down and just intimidate the hell out of my opponent. Take off the hat and do the eye thing and just glare at him and just scare the bejeebers. Maybe he's going to even just run out of the ring and then forfeit, even better for me. And then I got my win and I didn't get mashed up. But could you see yourself ever using something like the Undertaker theme song yourself?
You know, probably not the Undertaker theme. That kind of spurs a little thing of what we talked about before, but the whole intimidation thing, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the Andy Ruiz kind of method that he used, you know, just being calm, relaxed, smiling. The funny thing is about that, you know, when I walk to the ring, I understand I look a little bit intense, but before that, I'll be nice, I'll shake hands, I'll do whatever. I kind of take that route where I don't worry about intimidation. Even in the ring, there'll be the stare down, and the guy's staring at you like this, and he's going like this to me. I'll be like this. I'll even look away. I don't care. Like, I'll even go like, yeah, cool, whatever, man. So this guy thinks he's already won, because Mike Tyson would say, "Oh, I know right away. As soon as if they look away, they're done." So that happens. The guy gets confident. All of a sudden, we go to meet in the middle of the ring. I give him a stiff jab to the face. That expression of confidence goes right off their face. Like, I don't play mind games. I don't care about any of that stuff. I let my hands do the talking, and that's kind of my method. Like, I don't even worry about that intimidation stuff. Like, I personally don't think I look intimidating at all. So if someone's intimidated, sure, that's bonus for me. But I don't try to come off as intimidating. I'll just let these do the intimidation.
Let those do the talking. Because I always wondered, like, why is he not wearing the full robe? Why doesn't he come in like the sequence like Ric Flair? Like, you come and you're just like your workman. You come doing business, the bare minimum robe, bare minimum hood. You got obviously flashing your merch, you know, and it's just a different mindset. I always wondered on it. So I guess, you know, you're almost like making your opponent feel comfortable and like, oh, he's a good guy. And then I was like, oh, okay, no, he's not, you know? So that's an interesting strategy. Whereas for myself, you know, I'm 5'6", and I ain't intimidating anybody with my size except for maybe my guns. But that being said, that's why I picture using the Undertaker, you know, using the NWO, using the Hollywood Hogan theme. That's the stuff that speaks to me because, you know, when I would be going into a little known fact about me, when I would go and I'd be preparing for a boxing session, I would be on the treadmill or I'd be jogging or I'd be doing whatever. And I'd be watching Ric Flair rants. Like, I just watched the man going, woo, you know, and that would pump me up and that would get me into my mental mind space.
Yeah.
For yourself.
Everybody's different, right?
So like if you're heading over, you know, to the gym and you're planning to do a sparring session, what's playing on your radio?
So that's kind of what my method of doing things are a little different. Just like it's the same thing as me going into a fight. I don't get excited before the fight. I don't get excited. It'll be a day before the fight or 2 days before the fight. Someone would be like, "Are you excited?" And I'm like this. Like, I literally, it's like another day. Like, I don't even think about, like, well, obviously I think about the fight, but I don't have any stress. I don't try to get all focused because you know what that is to me? Wasted energy. I just focus on the task at hand. I kind of prepare myself that way, and when I go into the fight, I'm fresh. Say I'm driving to the gym to go do a hard training session or sparring, and I'm blasting music and I'm getting pumped. By the time I get to the gym, by the time I get changed, by the time I wrap up and I get suited and I get my gloves on, that's a lot of wasted energy being pumped up before my actual performance, my whether it be working out or sparring. So I kind of do the opposite where sometimes I just feel good and I'll put some music on, whatever, but I kind of just relax a little bit, like more calmer music. And then when I get to the gym and then I warm up, that's when I start pumping myself up.
I love it. Okay, well, listen, you know the formula, buddy. You're 10-0, so you ain't lost, and there's a reason why. So, that being said, now that we got your mentality, Nick, and where you've gone, who you'd want to fight in the perfect world, and how you're gonna get down to the ring. Which, by the way, we're not gonna hold you to it, but man, I really hope to see you walk down to that Ultimate Warrior theme song one day.
I will.
So we're gonna put it out to the universe now because we're putting good energy out there, positivity. What is the future of Nick Fantauzzi? Where are we going to be seeing you? Where do you picture yourself in 5 years, 10 years? Where are we going to be in boxing?
Okay, you might not like hearing this, but in 5 years, I will not be in boxing. I will be retired.
Okay.
I'm 35 now. I have lots of time left. I'm not half in, out the door, half out the door. But at this point in my life, in my career, I want to get as many fights as I can in a few years, maybe 3 max, like 4. But that's about it. 3-4 years that I want to do this because I've been doing it for 15 years. So
yes.
I'm at that point now where I have a good record. I'm going to keep improving on my record, and then the big fights are coming soon. They're coming. There's nowhere else they're coming.
Amazing.
So 5 years, I'll probably be very, very well off, retired from boxing.
Okay.
That's it.
And do you see you're very active in the training community, and
Yep.
do you see that as being a long term? Do you see where do you see yourself going? Not just the boxing side, but from the training side, as far as a trainer.
So I'm actually currently in the process of finding my own place. It's time for me to start building something else on the side on my own, and I got really lucky where I have a lot of great students, and it's building, and it's at the point now where it's like I have to do that a lot more and build that. So the problem is right now it's very hard to find a spot. It's actually contradictory to what people think. It's actually really hard to find space. Office space I found a lot of, but
yes,
like warehouse space, gym space, it's very difficult right now.
Well, I know, Nick, you're a determined guy, so whatever you put your mind to it, it's going to be there. So for people to keep up with your news, so when they're watching this, we have our names, we have our handles. So you're very active on social media. You're very engaging with the fans. So people need to reach you to find out about your fights, find out about your merch, find out about how to train with Nick. How do they go about doing that, Nick?
So my Instagram, I guess I use the most of all social media platforms. It's Nick_Fantauzzi, Fantauzzi. So Nick_Fantauzzi. But there's that. There's me on Facebook. I have my Team Fantauzzi page on Facebook. I have Twitter, which I almost never use. I don't even think I can tell you my Twitter.
You and the rest of the world.
But, yeah. But
are you on TikTok?
The best. I'm on TikTok, but I'm not as active as I should be. I have like maybe 12 posts since I've got it, but yeah.
Amazing. So the people watching there, many ways to reach Nick. He has got great merch. I wear my hoodie very proudly. He keeps it really, really fresh.
Yes,
so check out his merch, and it helps support the team because until you get those, those $10 million fights, there is a cost to it of getting trainers and putting it together. So supporting your local boxers and supporting your community is a big help through purchasing merch. And looking at Nick, you want to look like Nick, you want to feel like Nick, you want to be Nick, then by all means contact him. Start getting your gloves on and learning for training wise. And keep your eyes out because Nick's coming for you. And we're going to get that record one day to 20-0. And Canelo, he's looking for you.
That's it.
Nick, thank you very much for taking. We know you're very busy, and Nick was in between starting training and heading to his next training. So to book him is not the easiest thing, but our people spoke. We made this happen. So Nick, thank you for taking time out of your really busy schedule. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here on the Chosen Life podcast, and wish you only love, my friend, and only the best.
I appreciate you having me, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you, and thanks for the words and the motivation. I appreciate you, man, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you. So as we sign off, I'm going to do the pose. If you can, Nick, join me like this with the arm.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it, and then you say it. Keep living the chosen life.
Keep living the chosen life.
Until next time, baby. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, everyone. Wait a minute. Are we still running? Well, I know you already hit the subscribe button, the like button to say how much you love this episode, and the notification bell so you get notified of all our future episodes. But you still feel like you want more. Well, when you're ready to contact the chosen lawyers at Kormans LLP, we are here to help you. Whether you're looking to close a real estate transaction, a refinance, a corporate commercial matter like a lease, a shareholder agreement, an incorporation, you need a will or power of attorney prepared, a family law matter comes up, contact the chosen lawyers. We are here for you. So how do you get in touch with us? It's really simple. You go onto our website, go to kormans.ca, that's KORMANS.ca, fill out the contact form, and a chosen lawyer will get in touch with you. So it's very easy. We look forward to seeing you very soon. And thank you very much for watching The Chosen Life. We'll see you back very shortly.